And should be one, and we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for showing up today to the Provoke Coach podcast. So as you know, I'm Clinton Mansfield. I'm the CEO and founder of Provoke Coach and the creator of the Provoke Coach podcast. So what we're here to do is really share provoking and pivoting stories that have really helped people go from where they were at to where they're at now, in all these success stories and everything in between. So I have a very special guest with us tonight on the Provoke Coach podcast. I have an old friend, a friend of a friend that I know dearly, that used to be my roommate, that used to live with me. And then, years and years have passed. His rock I have on today. And this is Miss Maria Wyatt-Uhl. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm humbled to be here among all the great guests that you've had in the past. And I just think it's so great that you have this platform to do what you're doing.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, I always like to wish that we could do a recording of like the conversation that we had before we went live, because it is powerful, what we were talking about before. But let's get into you for a little bit. So there's going to be a lot of people that follow me that maybe don't follow you, and people that follow you, but maybe they don't know exactly what you're all about or where you come from. So today I would like to kind of share your story. And if you could just kind of give us a brief who you are, I guess, right now, what you're doing. Let's go ahead and start there, the present day.
Sure. So I am a public relations practitioner. I've worked over the last 10 years. I've worked my way up through agency life. And basically, for those who don't know what public relations is, it's the strategic communications that defines public perception. So what we do is like reputation management for a brand or business. That's done through a variety of tactics like media relations, influencer relations, crisis communications, and brand management. So in a nutshell, a company will, since I work in agency life, you can work, in-house for a company and do public relations, or you can then work for an agency like I have done, where a company will bring us on and we will handle whatever their goals are. Sometimes it's B2B, or sometimes it's consumer facing, sometimes both. So I specialize in PR and communications for lifestyle, entertainment, food and beverage, and lifestyle. So I represent a variety of clients from various industries, and that includes, Disney, it includes Margaritaville, WWE, Iron Chef Morimoto, a variety of clients from all sorts of industries. So we have fun with what we do, and I'm continuing to learn literally every single day. But I think the important thing that I think I've learned in all of this is I'm in the place I think I'm meant to be, doing what I'm supposed to do.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. That's awesome. And, obviously I've known you, for many years, and we're going to kind of get into, kind of the past and really where all this, came about. What does it look like, I guess, in the future of PR? Because a lot of people, it seems like everybody has a brand nowadays, right? And they want to, develop their brand and who they are, especially because of things like social media, and because the light, is really on everybody. Everybody with a phone, they have an opportunity to really get well known. How has that changed over the years? You've kind of been through a little bit of this.
Something that's changed is before we would really rely on the media to tell the story of whatever brand or business we're trying to promote. So we would work with them to use the media, like a magazine or an online website or something, as the platform to share their story. Now with social media, we really have the power, especially if it's someone like a celebrity or a large brand, we can control our own narrative. So we can use social media as that platform. The other side of that is then everyone in the world all has that phone. So You can then post your opinions or your thoughts, your love, your hate about that brand or business on those platforms. So it's a double-edged sword there, but it continues to evolve to this day. And I think it will continue, especially with every new platform that happens. I'm just when I think I get Instagram down, then they introduce something like Reels, and they're imitating TikTok. I have to learn TikTok, and I have to learn Instagram Reels, and there's always something new to learn, and we're adapting every single day to do that.
And I guess the next question would be so, you started this journey a long time ago, right? Back in the day, and things were different then, and now where we've evolved tenfold. What you're saying is true, is that it is a double-edged sword. Not only can you gain a lot, right, from the tools that we have now, but you can also lose a lot because there's not that filter and there's not that narrative that's created by somebody else. What about, businesses, what have they had to really do? I guess over this last 10 years, I know that you've been really, really into this. What changes have they had to make?
I think it's, the different aspects of their communication have changed. They've really had to develop themselves on social media, on the language that they use for media outreach. Their public perception is out there more than ever because of social media. So I think that they've really had to find ways to tell their story through that content. Sometimes if a brand may not want to put themselves out there so much. So it's a way of also showing a relatability and connecting with an audience in an effort to gain their trust and commitment to that brand.
And I guess my question is almost really a personal question, is that when companies and businesses come to you, they want to create a brand, they want to do this in social media, but it's just very exhausting and it's very hard. I know when I wear that hat of PR and marketing and getting out there in the community and doing all that, that does take away from my passion of coaching and where I really want to be, because I'm sure you deal with COOs and CEOs that they're wearing the wrong hat a lot of cases. And maybe you and your company come in and you fix that. What advice would you have for somebody like myself that has a hard time with that?
Being your own personal publicist and social media content creator, it is a full-time job. And I think the key to it is organization. Be strategic with the content you put out there. But I also think in many ways, less is more when it comes to the quality of the content. I guess what I'm trying to say is I would rather have really great quality content than content that there hasn't been a lot of work put involved. I think you need to really pay attention to the images that you're putting out there. Make sure they're high quality. Make sure the language is proofed. Make sure you're being strategic about the message you're trying to get across, but then also be organized about it. I think creating a content calendar. There are so many different tools out there now that you can create this calendar, which will allow you to be more strategic in the content you're putting out there. If you're wanting to do media outreach to push your business out there, do some competitive analysis. Look at what your competitors are doing in the press, how they're being perceived, and think about the angles that you want to get out there and how you're a differentiator from that.
Yeah.
So I think organization is definitely the key to balancing that craziness.
Yeah. And it really is, because I remember, first starting to work with somebody that knew what they were talking about with marketing and really having an understanding. I'm like, oh my God, like, no wonder why, this cost a lot of money, no doubt, because it really did take the guesswork out of everything. But, you're absolutely right. Being organized and being strategic, with the posting, it does take a lot of upstairs work. I think, the biggest thing is that strategy, right? I mean, with companies and businesses now, because you said something that was interesting. I am the type of person and the type of business person sometimes that pushes hard. Okay. Pushes hard and a lot. Like, oh, you didn't like that video? Here's another one. Oh, you didn't like that one? Here's one even better. And I'll keep going and going and going. But you're right. I think that where I've seen more success is sit back, one good, super good piece of content that really, really sends the message home. That's not too much is better. Is that the key ticket?
It truly depends on the situation.
Yeah.
It depends on what your goal is for that. I think that, but I think quality content, and it can come down to the quality of the photo, the quality of the caption, the quality of the video. From the tech perspective of it needs to look great, it needs to look professional, it needs to be put together, but also what the message is and what the goal is of the video or photo.
So, I mean, it sounds like a lot of, what you do professionally has kind of leaked into other parts of your life, because what I'm talking about is right. And I guess that we can bring this up now because it's in my head. When I look at not only your personal Instagram page, right, and your social media, but also the aesthetics of, right, the sand and stone that you've kind of come up with. It's just eye-catching and it's appealing. When I look at that grid, I'm just like, I want to click on it because everything you're saying, it is the quality. It is that perfect shot. Can you elaborate, I guess, what's happening right now? Because you're bleeding different parts of your life and even your home. I mean, I'm looking at the background of your home. I mean, let's get into interior design, I guess, and that eye for all of this. What's happening with that?
I started, when I started working in PR, and I had to, especially when I had to get up and go to an office every day, and I always had an interest in fashion and interior design. It started as a simple style diary. I think this is when Instagram first came on the scene and we started to see fashion bloggers in the world. And I didn't really have a goal of being a blogger or anything like that full time, but I just started taking photos of my outfits every day and, staging them casually. If I was out to brunch with a friend and I had a cute outfit on, I'd have him take a photo. So I started documenting that. And, it really taught me a lot about creating your own content and quality content. And I knew from what I did with PR as I was learning, I was young in PR when that first started. So it kind of started there. And then recently, as I've been redecorating my home, I've always had an interest in interior design. My mom went to school for interior design, and it's just always been a fun hobby. And as I redecorated, I liked the idea of having a platform just to take whoever wants to follow on my journey through this redecorating project, because it's, I'm not going and spending thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. I think that's the perception, is if you want a really beautiful home, you have to spend so much money. And we all sit there watching HGTV and seeing they're doing it so effortlessly because they have contractors and designers and unlimited amounts of time and money to go and find pieces, where I do a lot of DIY and, finding stuff on Facebook Marketplace and, buying things in, I have a very specific aesthetic in mind. And I think, taking the time to find the right pieces within your price range, maybe giving it a new coat of paint or new handles, or, creating your own artwork or anything like that. I have about 8,000 plants in my house, so it's also a crazy plant lady page. But I did it strictly for fun, and I've, gotten a few inquiries from it. just asking advice or, brand partnerships. I unfortunately don't have as much time as I'd like to do some of those partnerships, but I think just having a platform for whatever you're passionate about, either if it's for fun or if you want to develop it into a business, social media has given us that ability now.
Yeah, there's no doubt to that. I mean, but I always know that you've been, creative. I mean, for as long as that I've known you, as you're right, you've done your own paintings. So you have this, this knack for how things are supposed to look, not too much, not too little. Where did all that come from? Because I got to believe that goes way beyond PR. That goes way beyond, this Instagram page.
I always had a knack for what I just think is very, I had an interest just my whole life. I had an interest in just anything creative and artsy. I was going to go into this as part of my, back history, but I was a really artsy kid. I did I'm theater growing up and anything in the creative arts. And I really excelled at it. I'm dyslexic and I had issues in school focusing on some of the topics that I had no interest in. Math and science were not my friends. So I really excelled in the arts, and I developed that into just my hobbies and interests growing up. I think I was around it a lot. Like I said, my mom is really into interior design. I always loved fashion and theater. So it was just really following the things that you're passionate about and then seeing where it can take you. Sometimes working in a corporate job, you don't get to have the fun of some of that creativity. You're really chained to a desk and you don't get to express it. So I think social media has now given us that platform where, I can take some fun pictures and post it, and it's just a fun little hobby. But I think there are many avenues you can go to pursue that.
Well, and I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, when people are, it's kind of becoming, more of an artistic world out there, I suppose. People are really sharing some of these things that maybe was, an element of, a disconnect from what they were doing, their 9 to 5, or a hobby, like you said, somebody, you pick up something that you're kind of passionate about it. Now, let me ask you, is I guess this, I don't want to say moonlighting, right? Because they do kind of go together. You got the, it's kind of a superpower, or a powerhouse, if you will, putting the two together. Do you think anything will really evolve with the design? I mean, have you thought about that for the future at all, or no?
It's something that I thought about. If I really took the time to commit to really putting a platform out there, gaining a following and all of that, I would love to really, develop it into a brand. And, you see these interior design Instagrams with millions of followers. They're getting partnerships with major, furniture stores and stuff like that. It's something I would love. Unfortunately, I'm a firm believer that if you're going to do something like that, you really need to commit. And right now with my career, and I'm a new mom, it's a bit much for me to juggle. So right now it's strictly for fun, just documenting my redecorating projects. But, if it's something that I always call it your second life, if it's something that, you don't feel you're getting fulfilled by your current job or your current career path, and yet you want to start something like that, I think it's a great place to start doing it part-time, just seeing where it can go, and then, see where it takes you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, look, and also sometimes when and I don't know if commitment is the word for it, but when you're not really into, make some sort of big profit or pay your bills with something, and it is something that you're just like, wow, this looks cool. Let me take a photo of this. Let me put something together. Let me stage something. And I mean, look, when people go and see your page, they're going to know what I'm talking about. It's like it pops. You know what I mean? It's really good aesthetically. You know what I mean? And I mean that. I wouldn't say if I didn't. But what I'm getting at though is it is one of those things that could be branded, and that's why I asked. Okay.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, 100% for sure. Well, that's awesome because, and you know, everything that needs to be done. If you were to snap your finger and say, let's go, then that thing would grow like crazy because that's your profession, right? You know how to do that. I guess let's roll back the pages just a little bit. Where did you come from? How did you grow up? Where did all this come from? It must have come from someplace.
You know, like I said before, I was a really artsy kid, really creative, and I think that's where this all comes from. My parents are both were professional musicians, so I grew up in a house, you know, full of music, and I think it was their goal for us to be like the Partridge Family and like tour the country as like a family band. And I assumed my whole childhood that I would end up doing something like that. But as I got to the end of high school, and I kind of realized that's not very a lucrative form of, you know, betting on your future. So I decided when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to major in, and I knew I just wanted to start getting my education. So I said, I'll major in business. That sounds like a good move. Yeah. And I had no interest in, I shouldn't say no interest. I had some interest, but I think I just didn't know what I wanted to do with it yet. And then, you know, I started thinking, how can I use my creativity in this? And I didn't think business was that route. So I said, marketing. I love the idea of being the one to create the concept for an advertisement. I had seen it in movies, and I loved the idea of being the brains behind a commercial or an advertisement. So I changed my major to marketing. And then as I started taking my classes, I started taking some of these PR classes that are under the marketing umbrella, as PR is. Yeah. And I really gained an interest in that. And so then I changed my major again.
Right.
Changed major to PR, and I really committed. As I said before, I'm dyslexic, and I'm not, and I also think I'm a visual learner. Mm-hmm. I really am a true believer in you have to do something to understand it. So I did 6 internships in college to really get a variety of experiences in different industries under the PR umbrella. So I worked at a magazine. I worked for a nonprofit organization. I worked for a chamber of commerce, and then a few other places. And then I ended up at a marketing agency in their PR department, who then hired me after my internship. So I that journey kind of just, it all stemmed from trying to find a way to use my creativity in, you know, a professional form. So the agency that I worked at, I worked there for, I think, 3 or 4 years. And, you know, this was right out of the recession. I felt like I was just happy to be employed.
Right.
You know? And that agency, you know, some agencies, they'll specialize in something specific. Like I said before, right now I'm specializing in entertainment, lifestyle, and hospitality. But this agency really didn't have a specialty. They took on clients from all sorts of industries. So the thing about what you do when you're in PR and you're doing media relations, and you really have to be the expert on what you're talking about all the time. So it really opened me up to a lot of industries that I knew nothing about. And then boom, overnight, I have to be the expert. So I was doing like a trucking company, which was hysterical because I'm like the girliest girl you'll ever meet. And I'm talking about bulk liquid transport in my spare time. So, you know, we did hotels, and we opened a hospital, and you know, the agency that I worked for also was a full service agency. So, and it definitely had that like Mad Men era vibe. It had been around for over 50 years. So, you know, you're walking the halls and it's reminding you of that time period, which I love. But, you know, you had the media buyers downstairs, you had the advertising department, you had the creative department and the copywriters. And the art directors. So you really got to see the full circle effect when you have a client that's taking advantage of all of these services, because it really can take your brand to another level. So that's how I got my start. And then, and like I said, this was, post-recession. It was a shaky time in our economy, and I was there for, I think, 3 or 4 years. And something happened that happens to a lot to PR people who, when they work for agency and they depend on clients and having business to pay their employees. I walked into work one day and got laid off.
Yeah.
And it was not expected, because my boss had been let go, and they basically reassured us, like, you guys are good. You guys are good.
Right.
And I walked in one day,
and then nada.
And I was let go. And I'll tell you, it was the biggest learning experience for me, because it in PR, the biggest thing we value more than anything in the world is relationships. We depend on our relationships with the media, relationships with our clients, and relationships within members of the community to have results.
Yeah.
You can name any reporter pretty much in the country that works in food and beverage or in lifestyle press. I probably am on a first name basis with them. Those relationships are how I get results for my clients.
Yeah.
So when I got laid off from that job, I really saw the value in relationships. I drank more coffee in that 5 months that I was out of work, because I just kept proactively meeting with people. Hey,
Yeah.
let's go have a coffee and talk. You never know who is going to know who that can refer you to an opportunity. Something else that I think was of value is really being a member of a professional organization. I was on the board of directors, and I was for 8 years. I am not this year for the first time, because I am a new mom and I don't have time. But I was on the board of directors of the Public Relations Society of Orlando's local chapter, which is a national organization for public relations practitioners. And being on the board there was, and just being active within the chapter and within the local community of local professionals was the biggest blessing, because I ended up getting the job that I have now from a colleague there that had heard about it. But I think relationships and just, being proactive and getting out there and talking to people, nowadays people sit on planes and they have their earbuds in, and, they're walking down the street, and I think people don't talk anymore. And I can't, stress enough the value in talking to people, and really, even if it's just a first name, quick hello, and here's what I do. And something that I used to do, and I actually still do this, but I started it in college, was I would have to go in college to networking events and bring back a business card from that networking event. If I brought it to my teacher, then I would get extra credit. So I started going to these events, and I made, in college, I didn't have a business card. So I went and gone like Vistaprint and made a business card, like LinkedIn and my email. And I would just show up to these events handing out my card, because when you hand your card to someone, they're going to hand you theirs back. So I started collecting all of these cards, and on each card, I would write the date that I got the card from the person, and the location, and like a summary of what the event was. And I got a little photo album book, and I started putting them in there. So then if I then needed, you never know who you need. Like just the other day I still keep this book up, and I needed, and it's been like 10 years, like the book is like this thick. And sometimes I have to go through it and be like, oh gosh, he doesn't work there anymore or whatever.
Right.
But you never know when you'll need it. If the other day I needed a photographer to come and shoot a client's space, I went through that book and I was like, where's that dude that I met at that day? And there it was, his card. But you never know. So when I got laid off from my job, I went through that book, and I literally sent an email to anyone that was in marketing, PR, or knew someone in marketing, PR, and just proactively said, hi, just to let you know, I'm job hunting and here's my resume. Feel free to let me know if you hear anything. So it's taking that initiative is what I learned during that time. You just no one's going to do it but you.
Yeah.
And those relationships, I think, are what is the big differentiator there. So that was something that I really learned during that time that I got laid off. And then I ended up getting my job, like, I think 3 or 4 months later.
So let me ask you a question while we're on that subject and while we're there, we're on that topic, is that you said, you said a lot of awesome stuff that I'm just like, I want to scream, like, I told you so. I wasn't loony. I wasn't crazy by saying this. You're absolutely correct, because if you would, let's reverse. If you wouldn't have done that and you would have done the bare minimum, right, in that class to get by, not go get extra credit, not go meet with people, not go do anything. Number one, you didn't know, but you were really teaching yourself what to do in business. And that is what has gotten you all these promotions and all the success at this point, because you were willing to do it, and you learned and you taught yourself how to do this throughout the process. Of course, you were trying to get extra credit, so you probably had a 500% score in the class, right? Triple A's, but you did something that people don't do anymore. Why don't they take the initiative so much? Is it because of all the tools that are out there?
I don't know. I think, now I think there's so many platforms like Indeed and, places where jobs are posted or opportunities are out there. But, I don't know. I guess that's what it is. It has to do with, the accessibility there's more than ever right now. So, I think you just have to have that, that fire under your butt to want to go out there and really get the job.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. Well, let's keep going with how all this changed. So that's really what got you with this company that you're currently with now then?
Yeah, the company I'm currently with. I started, I think it's been almost 6 years.
Yeah.
And, I started, and I when I got laid off, I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't really realize that I had been very unhappy at that job. But like I said before, I just felt lucky to be employed, because it was, I got hired there right out of the recession, and I got very comfortable with the people I was working with. So I didn't realize how unhappy I was at that job. So I knew what I didn't want. I remember, like I said before, we didn't specialize in anything. So I ended up doing clients that I hated. I remember I had one client, was the Institute of Financial Operations. And I was like, financial operations? Like, that is not my wheelhouse.
Right.
I remember I loved doing hotels and restaurants and all of that. So when I was looking for the job, I didn't want to give up on doing what you're passionate about, because I think you truly do well and will continue to grow if you have passion. I had no passion for the Institute of Financial Operations, which I think led to me realizing that this is not the place for me. So finding the place that I work now, it just seemed like it was an automatic fit. So I began my work there, and I loved it because I got to do a lot of restaurants and hotels. And, my first big event was this big splashy red carpet with celebrities. And it was, this really sexy event. And it was a lot to put together. And I think I learned so much just with that one event, to where then, you have a template of what you can do and different tactics you can do. And, we were a really small team back then. It was me and one other person who was our senior vice president. And now we've grown our team, to like 25 people.
Wow.
17 people on East Coast and the rest on the West Coast. But it's great because I think I just knew that I was in the right place at the right time. So I think, and I've talked to so many of my friends, you know, the PR industry was hit pretty hard during the pandemic because a lot of times the first thing people cut out during a hard time is the marketing and PR department.
Right.
So I have friends that got laid off during that time, and they've been job hunting for months. But, you know, I think we all agree sometimes in our conversation about it is, you know, at this point in our career, I don't say this to young people because I think your first job is not going to be your dream job. Let me make that clear. You take the job, you're probably going to hate it. You're doing, you know, when you're an entry level, you're doing the work that no one else has time to do. So,
right.
That being said, I think at the level of career that I'm at now, where you have years of experience, I think you don't want to just take any job. I think you have to find what's the right fit for you. And there's so much importance in that, you know, and finding out what you're passionate about. It's what makes you get up every day. You know?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Because you're right. I mean, your first job, or even in a lot of cases, your first career. I mean, this doesn't need to be just your first, you know, job at the grocery store or at this restaurant or something like that when you're, you know, 14, 15, 16 years old. I mean, this could very well be out of college. I have my degree now. Let me go get my job. And even if that is a perfect match for your degree, it may not be a perfect match for you. You may spend 10 to 15 years there and figure out like, wow, I really hate this. And then move on to something that, like you're saying, is a better fit for you and your family, whether it's new or old, you know, I mean, that definitely comes up. But you're absolutely right. I mean, even if you hate it, take it. Get out to work and get a little bit of dirt under your nails, you know, matter in that regards, because how are you going to know if you like something if you haven't done it for only but a minute? Like, you don't even know if you like it or love it or hate it or whatever the case is.
Exactly.
So I know that you recently gotten promoted in this position of yours, and now it looks like another promotion may be in the horizon. Is that right?
We'll see. We just have a lot of changes going on internally, but I think something that's important that I discovered within the last year, you know, like I said, I've been at this company for 6 years, but even 10 years of working in hospitality and lifestyle and dining. But I got really comfy. You know, I've been doing the same type of content and the same type of clients. And I just think I got in a little bit of a rut, and, you know, it's wake up every day. It's the same kind of thing. So I think something I've learned through the last year and a half or so was to really step outside your comfort zone. So something I did was, I jumped on the team that was working on a major streaming services TV show. It was a new show, a new launch that was launching during a pandemic. So I've never launched a TV show in my life. And this is a major show for a major streaming service. I was like, the pressure is on. So as you do when you have a movie or something like that, they do the big junket where it's all the press from all over the world are coming to talk to the stars, the directors, the producers. And we now have to do this during a global pandemic. So for the first time, they're doing them virtually, which sounds like it's easy enough. Like, oh, we're going to go on Zoom and we're going to interview people.
Right.
Creating master schedules for hundreds of media outlets to talk to like 5 people. And then getting the commitment from them that they're going to run the story, getting the commitment that they're not going to leak the ending to all of their followers and readers and viewers, coordinating interviews in different languages, all in like a 3-day period, working with teams across the world. So I had a dinner party going on in my dining room while I was taking 9 p.m. conference calls with my team in Los Angeles, to coordinate interviews for the show. So that, I think, was something that really threw me for a loop, because I had to really learn as I go.
So I don't want to interrupt you, Maria, but why did you do that? Why did you kind of, because that sounds to me like you needed stimuli and you jumped in and said, I need to kind of, get out of this funk and maybe get challenged. And you really kind of jumped in with both feet. I mean, is that what you did?
Yeah, my leaders really pushed me to do it. They offered me the option, and I at first was like, oh, that's not really the thing I do. But I think I jumped into it, and we're really, spread thin staffing wise. So I really had to figure things out on my own and take the initiative and talking to the people if I wasn't sure of something. And like I said, dealing with time zones and, just a process that I'm not typically used to. Obviously, when you're launching something so high profile, there's, best practices that you need to learn. So I wanted to do it. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. Right now I'm doing something similar with sports. I am not a sporty spice girl. I'm a different spice girl. But I'm dabbling a little bit with some sports clients right now.
Nice.
Also tying it to lifestyle. So I think getting out of your comfort zone is something that you really shouldn't underestimate. In the beginning, you may be like, oh, this is going to be so much work for me.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it really is a learning process. And I think it was something that I felt really good about after we did it. At the time, it was chaos and I was so frustrated. But I think in the end, it was a really great learning process for me. So I hope I can do more of those. I haven't done as much as I'd like just because we've been so busy. But I think launching, movies and TV shows, our company really does well with that. They do it all the time in different departments. And since that's not my world, I think it was a good introduction to it.
And you like that every once in a while, kind of challenging yourself and really kind of putting yourself out there a little bit. I mean, does that kind of help with you personally?
I think so. I think that, you almost limit yourself if you don't. You want to be able to bring something new to the table. And I think for people that are looking to grow within their company, but you don't really know how, or you want to gain the respect of your peers, is stepping out of your comfort zone and taking that initiative and saying, hey, you know what? I want to do this too. I think it really puts you in a good light in front of them.
Yeah, well, and I agree 100% because I mean, I think that, there is a lot of science that actually backs up that if you're doing something different, because we're all, very adaptable, in our environment. We're humans after all, so we get used to doing something. And like you said before, you get maybe comfortable a little bit. And that's okay to feel comfort and security, especially in your career and your job and feeling proud of that. Mm-hmm. But also you need some sort of stimulation at times. Right. Yeah. And, that's powerful. What you said is really getting out there, because if somebody wants to grow, there has to be imposed demand. There has to be something that is different that creates stimulation. Yeah. Well, that's powerful. So you're going to take on more of these. I guess as your company looking at you now going, wow, like shit. We did that, Maria. Well, hey, we got these other things. Are they bothering you now with more tasks then, or?
I think that it's a matter of just showing that you're down to do whatever. Like I just make it very clear. I just had my annual review, and I make it very clear. Like, I'm here for whatever you want to throw at me. I'll take it. I think it's all just a learning experience. We're all going to grow from this. And, something I've learned from this process really is the power of collaboration. With working on some of these clients that maybe are not in my wheelhouse, I've got to work with new team members and people that I don't normally work with. And I think learning from what people that have a totally different role than I do I think learning from them really expands your knowledge to the larger big picture of the industry. We've been working with, something that we do in PR is we'll develop brand partnerships. We'll find a brand that has nothing to do with what we do, but or what your clients do, but we'll find that they have a like-minded audience. So we'll put the brand together. Maybe we'll do a social media giveaway and we'll put together a microsite and have them collaborate. And that's great because that gives, my client to appear in their, language on their website or in their stores or in their catalogs or on their social media, totally introducing the brand to a new audience. So with that, you really get to learn about other industries and other professions, and how you can apply that to what you're doing.
And do you think that that's like language in a way? I think that, I've always thought, and I think it's been scientifically proven as well, is people that speak multiple languages, have parts of their brain that they are really, really are sharp in comparatively speaking to those that don't. Do you think that as you're learning these different audiences in the world of marketing and PR, does that make you kind of a little bit sharper in that regards because you can understand, because buyers are buyers, right? Customers buy multiple things in the world. So
yeah, I think you just get to know who that audience is. The sports audience that I'm trying to talk to now is so completely different to when I was doing I used to do PR for a clothing store for women 55 and up. I don't think that those are the same audience. So right. I think you truly learn to understand who that audience is, what they like, what age group they are they male or female, where they live. So, fortunately, because I work for this big company, we have databases that really can break that down. Right. But sometimes it's truly just going and learning about who they are through their social media, through what they're buying, when they're buying, how they're buying it. Mm-hmm. So it's just, really taking the time to learn about who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As far as the audience, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So Maria, wow. I could talk to you for hours, but I know that, you're super busy now, and I know that you're at home and you got the little one and the family and everything. Thank you so much for sharing all these wonderful nuggets of,
you're welcome.
Inspiration, motivation, but logical, strategic thinking as well. And that's what I liked most about some of the things that I shared. I can't wait to take notes. I usually always review these and take all my good nuggets away. Thank you so much. But I guess before we go, what piece of good advice do you have for maybe somebody that's listening out there? Maybe they go, wow, I can relate to Maria right now. What advice do you have for somebody out there, whether they're struggling or not, or they're pivoting or they're not? What is it that you can share with them that will help, that has helped you?
I think that when you're struggling or you're trying to figure out what you want to do, I think play to your strengths, but don't be intimidated by the things that are so out of your comfort zone. I think we all get a little gun shy and nervous, and we want to hate on ourselves. I don't know how many times I've sat there and been like, God, I suck at my job. I don't know anything about what I'm doing. And I think you just, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it in that regard. But I think play to your strengths, but don't be intimidated by what you don't know, because knowledge is power and you're going to learn so much along the way. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I've been so fortunate over the years to have so many amazing mentors that, I think some of us don't like to show weakness. We don't like to show that we don't know something. And I think just voicing it and learning from people that want to take you under their wing and watch what they do is the most powerful thing you can do.
It really is. It really is. Wow. Powerful. Maria, thank you so much. Powerful gratitude. Everybody that's listening, Maria, stick around just for a second. everybody that's listening, hey, if you like this, share this. If you want to reach out to Maria, how do they find you? Let's give them kind of your handles on Instagram, Facebook. I know you're active on LinkedIn as well. Where can they find you to reach out?
You can find me on Instagram at Maria Wyatt-Uhl and also at Sand and Stone Style.
Awesome. Excellent. Very good. Thank you so much. Everybody that's listening, if you liked it, share it. Remember, we're trying to be able to promote, positive and provoking changes in people's lives. So I appreciate everybody tuning in today and listening to all the wonderful messages from Maria and all the nuggets. Hopefully you took notes. I can't wait to talk to you soon. And as always, provoke positive change in people and, of course, in your peak performance as well.